Welcome in to the newest edition of Caught Stealing here at Fantasy Alarm's Fantasy Baseball Podcast, I should say. Colby Conway at Colby R. Conway over on X. And with me, as always, Joe Gallina at Joe Gallina over on X, Gallina. At this point, Joe, I think we are contractually obligated to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers because they've made the show sheet again because they simply just won't stop winning and hitting the baseball. And it's impressive what they are doing. So let me throw two other teams in here to kind of kick this off. We got the Brewers, the Mariners, and the Padres are all surging. Which of those three do you think are more capable of making noise come October?
That's tough to pick one, but front row Amy, a big Brewer fan, has got to be thrilled at the way they're playing. And I just got this stat from MLB.com. Brewers' first team since the 2015 Blue Jays. And that's another team that has surprised us this season, but we're not going to talk much about them today. But the first team since the 2015 Blue Jays to record multiple win streaks of 11 games in the same season. So, I mean, Brewers, Mariners, and the Padres, just amazing what they're doing. Brewers so balanced, right? And doing it with some no-name guys, too. I mean, we spoke about Andrew Vaughn last week, made a change to his swing, has been raking for the past 3 weeks. Got to add him while he's hot, right? And what happens when Rhys Hoskins comes back? And then you got Sal Frelick, 17 stolen bases, 9 home runs. I think we spoke about Isaac Collins last week, and Bryce Turang, 6 home runs in his last 11 games. And then they're going to get Jake the Snake Mizorowski back soon. Solid bullpen. And I guess the common thing with these three teams is that they're really very balanced. I mean, the Mariners obviously surging. Their offense got a big boost with Josh Naylor, who's all of a sudden stealing bases at a crazy clip, right? 11 stolen bases in 16 games for them. He had 11 stolen bases in 93 games for the Diamondbacks early in the season. But Julio Rodriguez heating up. He could carry them on his back. But so balanced, it's like all these teams have very good starting pitching, very good bullpen, and very balanced lineups with lots of guys filling in that you wouldn't think, like a Dominic Canzone, right, from the Mariners. He was a 300 hitter in 6 minor league seasons. All of a sudden, he's producing in the majors. So I mean, he's a guy that if you're playing a 5 outfielder league that you could pick up. I mean, he's producing at a 20 homer clip. It's just it's fun to watch these teams.
Yep. And every team needs stars. They need their stars to produce, but a lot of times that success does hinge on like those role players. I mean, look at the Toronto offense. Ernie Clement.
Yeah.
Addison Barger. Yep. Like guys like that. Like then you go to the Brewers. It's just everybody's high OBP. Andrew Vaughn has had a renaissance in his career. Isaac Collins, Bryce Turang doing his thing. And then you just have the Padres that just continue they're surging now a little bit, but at the deadline, they bolstered the bullpen. They're just trying to get through the 5th inning and then let the bullpen rock. And then like Toronto, we talked about them with Barger and Clement, but they're about to add Shane Bieber to its rotation that I'm pretty sure is going to be the oldest in baseball by average age. I can't confirm that, but I just have a hunch because that's an old man rotation right there. But another team on the other end of the spectrum, we have the Chicago Cubs are actually 2 games under 500 in the second half. And I want to call attention to Mr. Pete Crow Armstrong. Do you happen to know what his strikeout rate is in August?
It's got to be somewhere around 30%.
36.8%. You want to guess his batting average?
For the month of August, 190, because I know he's really
I was going to say whatever it is, divide it in half. It's 081, just to kind of put some other numbers into perspective. An 027 ISO, a .099 WOBA, and a negative 46 WRC plus.
Wow.
He has been slumping. I'm seeing on X, everyone's talking about it was like a Linsanity run for Pete Crow Armstrong. I don't think that's the case. He did have a strikeout rate that was pretty high. That was always going to be a potential problem of his, and it's kind of rearing his ugly head right now. But Pete Crow Armstrong had such a good open to the year. The strikeout rate again was there, but I'm not buying into it too much. I'll take the easy road out here. The beginning of the year wasn't what Pete Crow Armstrong is, and what he is now is not what Pete Crow Armstrong is. It's somewhere in the
I
middle. He's
agree.
always going to have a little concern with batting average because of the inflated strikeout rate, but the power and speed is legit. So any concerns kind of moving forward with PCA and the Cubs as a whole, I should say?
I think he figures it out. I mean, he's a guy that swings at balls outside of the strike zone, but actually makes, when he's going good, makes good contact against them. Does have a problem hitting lefties, batting 190 versus lefties this season, and he's really been slumping way back to July 5th, batting 205 since then. I was trying to do some research ahead of the show and found an article where basically he said nothing's really wrong. I just suck at hitting baseball sometimes right now. His hitting coach basically said the same thing. So I think he's going to figure it out. And, it's not really deep analysis, but like you said, I think he wasn't as good as we saw in the first couple of months of the season where we were thinking, wow, this guy's going to be a first round pick in drafts in 2026. But you look, he's not the only Cub who's struggling. I mean, you look at what Kyle Tucker's been doing in the second half, batting 212, but at least he's still walking at a rate almost 20%. So, but Seiya Suzuki as well, batting 176. So the Cubs, I don't know, maybe something's in the water over there, but they're just not. Their stars are just not getting it done right now, and then obviously it's showing with them falling in the standings.
And if you head over to fantasyalarm.com, you check out the daily pitcher matchup grid. I've been on it the past 2 days, and I've highlighted over the last 2 weeks, Chicago's been a bottom 5 or 6 offense in baseball. It goes to exactly what you said. It's not just PCA. It's a couple of other guys in that lineup as well. I'm looking here as we're recording this Wednesday evening on August 13th. Over the last 2 weeks, as a team, the Cubs, 230, 295, 370 with a 292 WOBA and a 21.5% strikeout rate.
No,
it's the whole offense. It's not just PCA, but he is certainly a part of it.
Yeah, they were a team like a month ago that you wouldn't start if you could avoid having your starting pitchers go against them. You would avoid them, but it's amazing how quickly things have turned.
It is a long season, and I think everybody can agree with that. But let's kick it on over. Let's do a little MLB news and notes around the league. We'll go to New York, but not to your team, Joe. We'll go to the Mets. We'll just give Pete Alonso his flowers. I believe he's now the all-time home run leader for the Mets, and he almost didn't even don a Mets uniform this season. Crazy to think that. Yeah. How crazy. How lucky, looking back on it now, again, hindsight's 2020, but how fortunate are the Mets to have Alonso in this lineup? They ponied up and got it back. Got him back.
Absolutely, because, they paid a lot of money for Soto, and I don't blame them. But when Soto was struggling early on, it was the polar bear, Pete Alonso, who was carrying them. So hopefully, as a baseball fan, you like to see, it doesn't happen often enough, but you like to see a homegrown talent that has the talent that Alonso has play his entire career with the Mets. He wants to, and didn't look like he was going to sign with them, but happy that he did, just as a baseball fan. And he's a guy that, in a lot of my drafts, I like to get, 2 real bona fide power hitters early on. And he's a guy that, is going to hit at least 35 home runs a season. And, just overall, a good baseball story.
And then we'll stick with the Mets. Their top pitching prospect, number 3 overall on their team, and I believe he's the number 37, if I remember correctly, in Major League Baseball. Nolan McLean's going to come up and make his debut this weekend. I believe it's against the Mariners, if I have that correct. And at AAA this season, 2.78 ERA, 27% strikeout rate, and a 1.1 WHIP. I will call out, there was a double-digit walk rate, so does need to be a little bit of a refinement of the command, we'll say. But deep pitch mix, so it's a pretty expansive arsenal. What can fantasy manager expect from McLean? Should they be going out to add him now? What can we see here? Because it sounds like if he pitches well, call me crazy, but God forbid they put Frankie Montas back in the rotation if this kid pitches well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the Met offense could do what they did against the Braves on Tuesday night and give them some run support. They scored 13 runs last night. So, if I'm looking for pitching, the Mets are still, even though they're really, really slumping, they're still a good team. And Citi Field is a decent spot for a pitcher, more of a pitcher's park than a hitter's park. So I'd take a chance on them.
Yep. I would as well, especially if I'm needing some pitching help. If you need reliever help, first and foremost, go over to fantasyalarm.com. Check out Joe's closer report and the closer grid. Closer grid's updated daily, sometimes multiple
Yes.
times a day.
Yeah,
You never
sometimes
know
more
what
than once a
happens.
day.
You never know what can happen. And I'm sure you had to go over there and make an update because Houston had to place Josh Hader on the injured list. So the $1 million question is, while Hader is out, who works the ninth inning for the Stros?
I think it's going to be Abreu is the guy that's going to get most of the work. If you look at the bullpen depth of the Astros, they got a lot of left-handed arms there. But Brian Abreu has been one of the better setup men in baseball for a while now, and he's had some closer experience too. Backing up when Presley was hurt and whatnot. So I think they have the Astros have good confidence in Abreu. Um, I wouldn't roster him, but the only other right-hander in that bullpen that has some closer experience is a guy that nobody's ever heard of, Caleb Ort. He's like 33 years old and has 56 minor league saves. So if Abreu's not around and they need a righty, he might be the guy that they turn to. Doesn't mean that you roster him, but just but Abreu's going to be the guy.
The season is lost for Atlanta, but they could at least be getting Ronald Acuna Jr. and Austin Riley back. So if you're, looking to get them back to your line for playing DFS, those guys should be or could be returning soon, I should say. But one guy who won't be, and I've been a little bit pessimistic as the year goes on that we'd see him again, but Shane McClanahan's year is officially done. I feel like it's something that we've probably thought for a long time now, and now it's finally official. But they underwent a procedure to kind of clean up around that irritated nerve in his left tricep that he suffered back in spring training. So he is officially done for 2025. I know we're kind of looking a little far ahead here, but it's not an elbow, it's not a shoulder, it's a tricep. For 2026 fantasy drafts, if you had to guess today on August 13th as we're recording this, and I know price is obviously going to be a big part of this as well, but do you think you'll be interested in Shane McClanahan in the 2026 fantasy baseball season?
Obviously, we're going to have to see how he looks in spring training. I mean, he hasn't thrown a regular season big league inning since 2023. Had the Tommy John surgery, then the nerve issue, bicep tendonitis, and 2023 he only threw 115 innings. So you have to wonder what he's going to look like when he comes back. Does he still throw the heat? It was upper 90 fastball before he got hurt, and how many innings he could give you. Hopefully, they stretch him out real good where he could give you 140, 150 innings. But I'm going to have to look at him carefully in spring training, and I'm not going to be willing to pay a high price for him.
Yep. And like I said, it's tough to do at this point. It's going to come down to price where he settles in. Because the other thing, too, is they're in Steinbrenner Field for another 2 seasons, right? Aren't they there for 3?
I think so, yeah. With not a hitter pitcher-friendly place.
That is certainly not a pitcher-friendly place. So that'll be something to consider as well. And also why I'm pretty in on Rays hitters for the next couple of seasons, because I do believe they're for the next 3. I talked about this guy earlier. We'll stick in the American League East. I'm going to ask, even though I'm sure it'll pain you as a Yankees fan a little bit, but Shane Bieber set to make one more rehab start. They're going to work him up to a pitch count of the mid-80s, and then one has to assume at that point Toronto brings him up to join their rotation, increasing the average age of that rotation to about 38 and a half. But what can we expect from Shane Bieber upon his return? I know that typically with the Tommy John recovery, there are some command issues, a little rust needs to be worked off. But Shane Bieber going to the Blue Jays, if you had to kind of take a guess the rest of the way, SP2 numbers at more SP3, where do you think he kind of falls in that range?
Yeah, I would have to say probably SP3. But obviously a serviceable arm. The guy's a former Cy Young Award winner. And then I guess, because of their age, the age of their rotation, maybe they go with a 6-man rotation, because I don't see anyone that really you could say, hey, they haven't been pitching well that you would take out. I mean, obviously you're not going to remove Gausman. Bassett's been pitching pretty well. He's got 11 wins. Even Eric Lauer, 3.36 ERA. Scherzer's been coming on too. So, yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, if they do go with a 6-man rotation, probably SP3 kind of numbers.
Yep. I'm kind of right there with you as well. I think SP3. I'll say closer to an SP2 than an SP4, though. I'll be a little optimistic there in that range. But let's go in here. We're gonna do a little strategy session talking buying or selling down the stretch. And one of these this Miami player we talked about last week as a waiver wire ad, Jacob Marsee's got 5 stolen bases and a 498 WOBA over the last 2 weeks. So I know last week you'd say you were buying him, but now I got to ask this week, are you buying or selling Marsee down the stretch for the Marlins?
Well, he's got an inflated 500 BABIP, but if I need steals, I'm buying and I'm watching to see if the bottom's going to drop out of his season, because it will. The guy had a 239 batting average in 4 minor league seasons. I did recommend them last week, and he's still batting 382. But cream always rises to the top, and it goes the other way too. So just have to be careful to keep an eye on him and don't hold on to him longer than you should.
Looking at it, I mean, a lot of the numbers are pretty encouraging. He's not leaving the strike zone at all with a 8% O swing rate, swing outside the zone. The zone contact, 94%. Contact rate overall, 86%. 4.3 swinging strike rate. So you like all of those contact metrics. So we'll have to see if it holds for him. We'll go to Arizona here to talk about the one and only Mr. Blaze Alexander. So let me read you these numbers. 4 homers and a 477 WOBA over the last 2 weeks. But he's also sporting a 28.6% strikeout rate. So pretty close to kind of a 2 true outcome here the last couple of weeks with him. Are you buying Blaze Alexander down the stretch?
If I need a middle infielder, yeah. But obviously the high K rate does scare me. Have a longer leash on him than Marsee, because he has better pedigree, better minor league numbers. I'm just wondering, maybe I missed it, but Jordan Lawler, does he get called up? And then if he does Blaze lose some playing time?
Perhaps it could happen. I know Lawler was hurt a couple weeks ago, but I mean, not that that's a shock to anybody. Kid can't stay out of his way. I'm trying to see if we have any news on Lawler, if he's hurt or not. I usually just default to that he's hurt.
Yeah,
that's just what I default to. I don't know if that's right or not.
That's my biggest concern. But I have a longer leash with Blaze. I'd buy him for a longer term than I would on the previous guy we spoke about, Marsee.
Let me see. I'm looking at Lawler. There hasn't been a minor league game, so he might still be hurt. I'll keep looking into that. But let me tell you this about Blaze Alexander. I'm buying. I'll also talk about it a little bit later. But despite the 26%, he has a 26.1% strikeout rate over his last 11 games in which he's hit safely in 10. But the 455 BABIP is cool and all, but nobody stays at a 455 BABIP for long. So that is one thing I'm a little bit concerned about. And then also when you look at it, 90 plus exit velocity, the barrel rate's in double digits. So a lot of that is pretty good. But as we know with the strikeout rate, what do we see? Even during the streak where he's hit safely in 10 out of 11, we talked about Marsee being 94% zone contact and I was 86% contact. Alexander's at 75% zone contact and 71% contact overall with a 12.4 swinging strike rate. These numbers would make Marsee's skin crawl, I think is how I would kind of look at it. So there is definitely some, I think the bottom can fall out, and I mean fall out with Alexander. So that's one thing I'm a little concerned about. But hey, while the going's good, keep on enjoying it, to say the least. Now, let me ask you this one. We'll go back to Chicago. We talked about them slumping a little bit, but one player who hasn't been is Cade Horton. If you go back to July 1st, he actually has the MLB best 1.05 ERA in that stretch. He's actually pitching tonight as we speak against Toronto. So we'll have to see how he fares against them.
Yeah, tough opponent. Good offense.
1.05 ERA, very good. But only an 11.8 strikeout minus walk rate. Not striking many batters out. We know that fantasy managers don't like when people don't strike out a lot of bats. So what do you make of Cade Horton? Because on one hand, you got this excellent 1.05 ERA, but then just a middling strikeout rate. And it just seems like it's a little too good to be true, especially with how he started the big league campaign.
Yeah, if you're pitching to too much contact, you're going to end up getting in trouble. But just looking at, I always like to look at, especially young pitchers, and he's 23. I always like to look at, their minor league numbers, and the guy had a 11.3 strikeout per nine in the minor leagues and a 3.1 walk per nine. Means nothing now because he's pitching in the major leagues, only striking out less than 7 per nine. But I think that pitching is at such a premium with so many pitchers going down all the time. I would definitely take a chance on him if by chance, you're playing a really shallow league and he's out there. But I think that if he continues to pitch to contact, he's going to get in trouble, and that ERA is gonna increase.
Yep, and I'll just throw it out there because we just talked about it. He's perfect through 3 against Toronto with 5 strikeouts.
Look at him. Oh, there you go. See?
But I just jinxed it, which is good because I have a little bit of exposure to Toronto bats tonight. So I just jinxed it. So that's just at 7:56 p.m. Eastern, I officially put it out there that he was perfect and the wheels came off for Horton in the 4th inning. Just that's I'm putting it out there so you can blame me. But let's move on to the waivers here. Joe, will wrap it up here under a half hour. So, whether people need to go listen to the New Heights episode with Taylor Swift or whatever else they need to do with their day. Let's talk about a couple waivers here. We'll start with the hitters. I have 2, but I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. I got a guy that, if you follow baseball, you've heard of him, Noel Marte, Cincinnati Reds, third base outfield eligible. I was surprised. He's only 24% rostered in Yahoo leagues, post-hype sleeper. When healthy and playing every day gives you 20-20 type production. One negative is that he's been really struggling against lefties, but a lot of batters do. But he's really been coming on lately with a 800 OPS in his last 12 games. So if he's available, he's got the dual position eligibility, I'd pick him up.
We just talked about him. I'm going to tell you to pick up Blaze Alexander because guess where Arizona heads for a Thursday through Sunday series?
Is it Colorado? Is it Cincinnati?
Colorado. Nope, they are going to Colorado for 4 games. So the hot streak should continue for Blaze Alexander. Like I said, he's hit safely in 10 of his last 11. So good on him there. And then also look at Minnesota. Look at Luke Keyshaw. I know he had 5 stolen bases in his first 7 big league games, then had the unfortunate injury. But since he's come back, despite being caught once, he actually tried in that first game back, though. Hitting 345, 655 slug, 174 WRC plus, a strikeout rate that's barely in the double digits. So you love to see that. He has just picked up right where he left off. So the steals will come around. I'm not concerned with it, but everything else looks pretty darn good for the 22-year-old second baseman there in Minnesota. Waivers, I'll go first. I'll cherry pick again. Nolan McLean, actually, fun fact, if you go on ESPN and pick him up like I did, he has a DH and pitcher eligibility, despite not being a two-way player anymore. So fun fact with that one. But take a look at Hurston Waldrop in Atlanta. He's going to face Cleveland this weekend. I'm not a big fan of that offense. I know they're better against righties than lefties, but sounds like there's been a little ideology shift with Waldrop. They're basically talking about you don't need to blow hitters away, just kind of paint the corners, do that. So I'm kind of intrigued. His pitch mix has also switched a little bit. So I'm encouraged by that. And they've said that if he pitches well, they'll keep him in the rotation because at this point, what does Atlanta have to lose? So Let's hope for a good start against Cleveland this weekend. So take a look at Waldrop out there on the waivers. What say you?
How about Ryan Bergert? Traded from the Padres to the Royals. Overall good numbers. 2.87 ERA, 0.794 WHIP. Wasn't pitching deep into games early this season, but his last 2 starts with the Royals pitched into the 6th inning in both of them. Had some control issues earlier in his big league career, but that's improved. 10 Ks, 3 walks in his last 2 starts, and has what appears to be a good start against the White Sox on Sunday. You never know, but hey, White Sox could be a good start for him.
Yeah, White Sox, they were hot out of the break, cooled off a little bit here of late. I know I've written about them a little bit in the daily pitcher matchup grid that you can find over at fantasyalarm.com. But before we wrap it up, Joe, I'll kind of get this. I didn't put this in the show sheet, so it's kind of open-ended for you. But from the closer grid, any other names or anything that fantasy managers need to be aware of there? Any kind of changes that you made or just any news on the closer front other than the Josh Hader news that you want to bring some attention to?
Well, it looks like Phil Maton is settling in as the closer for the Rangers. Robert Garcia has been struggling lately. I like what Cade Smith has been doing for the Guardians. Dennis Santana settling in as the Pirates closer, right? He's been doing pretty well for you guys. Other than that, you'll see the article tomorrow morning.
There it is. So make sure you head over to fantasyalarm.com, check that out. And if you become an all-pro subscriber, you can get all the great content we have over there. I believe that'll also include the fantasy football draft guide. The cheat sheet's also, I believe, a part of that. And if not, you can always purchase that as well. And of course, you'll get access to the Discord. So any questions you have with your fantasy baseball, fantasy football, any other sport fantasy team that you have there, we'd be happy to help you out over there. So become a member of the family today. You can follow me on X over at Colby R. Conway. Give Joe a follow on X at Joe Gallina, Joegallina. And make sure you become a member of the family today. Hope to see you in the Discord. Give us a follow. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will see you next week with the newest edition of Caught Stealing.